What's up? I thought I'd do a product review of Crossover Symmetry. So full disclosure, I have not tried any of this before. I've heard about Crossover Symmetry. I obviously see a lot of ads on my social media. So I thought it would be a good idea to try it out. I've been doing more training outdoors at the park. So this is a good portable piece of equipment that I think would be very versatile for some of my athletes. So let's see what came in the box. All right, so let's take a look at what is in the box. So it looks like, wow, there's a lot of things. So there's a training guide. There is a chart with some of the basic exercise routines. One piece of recommendation that I always do with new pieces of equipment is I always read what they have in the training guide. It's because they've been doing this, they built the product, they've seen all of the experiences that they had training athletes. So I always like to read some of the basics. This is probably the best way to get started and to understand where they're coming from and how to utilize the product better. This is some heavy duty boxing, got all of their social media. All right, let's get to the meat of it. So I did get the hip band. Okay, for me, I needed to get all of the different cord attachments because I plan to utilize this in many different ways. So you have the carabiners, squat rack straps. I got all my different cords. You got the chart clip so that you can hang that chart. All the cords, and that is it. So this is what's in the box. Okay, so I'm not gonna open all of them right now, just a couple. And I'm gonna give my honest review on these because I want to see the benefits of these two. So it's basically just heavy duty bungees. It looks like the TRX Rip Trainer cords, and it stretches and it has different resistances. The handle is pretty sturdy. Everything looks pretty sturdy. Really, my interest is to see how it performs in different conditions, different exercises with all of my different athletes, even myself. So I plan to get some footage of me utilizing it. I also want to see what the training guide says and some of the, hopefully, research that they have with some of these exercises and programs that they've created. Obviously, it's a lot for shoulders, but you can utilize these in different ways. You can do core, you can do other things that you would be able to do with bands. But I plan to try this out. And since this is the first time that I'm doing a product review, with any products, I truly believe that I have to try it for an extended period of time. Obviously, a month's time, you can't try everything, but it gives me a good idea to give some useful feedback on the Crossover Symmetry system. After that, I plan to keep utilizing this, and as the months go on, hopefully in the next year or so, I will have a much better understanding as to what kinds of things this is really good at training. So stay tuned. I'm going to give a brief overview of what I think of the product after I try it out for a little while. And hopefully this gives you some helpful information to see if this is something that you want to incorporate or purchase for yourself and include in your workout routine. So we saw what came in the Crossover Symmetry kit, and here's the review. So I've been using it for over 7 months, got a good amount of time trying it out, not only on myself, but with a lot of my athletes, my clients, training at the park, in here. So here's the pros and the cons of the Crossover Symmetry. I definitely think it's very worth it. For the price, it's a little bit pricey, but for what you can do with it, the program that they created, it's definitely very versatile. Now, the one thing that the Crossover Symmetry bands are good at is it's made for shoulder maintenance, shoulder care, primarily a lot of scap strengthening and rotator cuff strengthening. Beyond that, you're going to have other tools or better exercise that you can do. Of course, these bands can do some of that, but I don't think that's their strong suit. So these bands, it comes in pairs, right? And you can see that I've got pretty much all of the bands. So I got the Pro Kit. And that's what I would recommend for most people, just because then you can apply it to different athletes, different people who might need a little bit more variety in the bands. So you can see here, I have it attached to a cage. This is one of the pros. One of the benefits is that you can take this attachment, attach it to fences, beams, anywhere outdoors, and it makes it very convenient. In the gym setting, you can attach it to the cage, the squat rack, or even they have wall anchors that you can mount to the wall. Along those lines, the portability of these bands, they're very lightweight, easy to carry around with you, and you can do a variety of things that you wouldn't be able to quite target if you didn't have these bands. And like I mentioned before, the program, the variety of exercises that they have done, I think it is very good for scap control. They really target all of the movements of your shoulder blade or your scapula. So protraction, retraction, upward, downward rotation, and they combine this with how your shoulder moves functionally. Also, rotator cuff strengthening. They've done a really good job with making all of these different motions that challenges your rotator cuff functionally again. It's not just your internal, external rotation in isolation. It forces you to coordinate the rotator cuff function into these bigger movements, more complex movements, and overhead movements. Now, to give you an idea of what the bands actually look like, as you know, you always cross them. I think that's another benefit, is that because you're crossing it, it gets your shoulder to move in a more natural plane. We're getting you more in that scapular plane, more or less, and it makes the line of pull feel really good when you're doing various exercises. So I really like that. Now the bands itself, I've kind of measured it out. It usually stretches to about 9.5 or 10 feet. So there is a max range where this casing will just lock out and it won't let you stretch the band any further. This is also a good benefit because it makes the band a little bit more sturdy and durable. This casing also prevents any nicks, which is what is the number one thing that breaks these bands, and I go through a lot of bands once they get nicked. So this casing is very good. It's a heavy duty band. The TRX Rip Trainer has a similar type of band with this casing, but you only can take it so far. So that might be one of the drawbacks. Again, I like the varying resistances, and it's very easy to clip on one carabiner and take it all around like this. So now let's get into some of the cons. There's not too many cons actually. I really like the product. This is why I have 2 sets in here. But one of the big cons is that only one person can use this at a time. So even though you have multiple resistances, typically you're not going to separate it and clip them on different carabiners. They're all going to be on the same one. So because of that, only one person can use it at a time. And you have to figure out, how are you going to be using this? Is this at home just for yourself, or are you going to use it in a team setting? If you're using it in a team setting, you're going to probably have to get a couple different setups or kits so that more people than one person can be using or doing the exercise at the same time. Another thing is that it is band resistance. So band resistance, it's convenient, it's portable, it's really good. But band resistance, again, you get most of the resistance when you're as far away from the attachment as possible. And you get less resistance when you're really close. So keep that in mind too. They do a good job with different movements and different exercises to target all of the different muscles and get them working. But within a certain exercise, because there is a fixed length to this too, you're going to have a lot of times a lot less resistance in the range of motion that's closest to the cage or closest to the attachment. So that's something to consider as well. Another slight con is that these bands are a little bit more pricey, but it's because they're these durable bands with the sheath around it. And I definitely do think it's worth the price. If you try to do things with other bands, I have gone through bands, super bands, TheraBands many times before because it just gets nicked. And once it gets nicked, it's prone to breaking. And you don't want to be using bands that might break on you. So I do think even though it's a little bit more pricey, it's worth the cost because of the durability. And these bands are going to last you a little longer because of the way that it's made. Beyond the bands though, I do think that you're paying for some of the programming, the exercises. They do have good resources, and again, I like their exercises because it's very versatile. It really targets the scap function and rotator cuff function. Now with that being said, one of the cons is that you're not going to get a lot of extra bigger muscles like your chest, your shoulder, your delts, your lats. They do incorporate it into their program, but again, the resistance is usually not heavy, especially for the experienced mover, that it will really target and build up those muscles. Don't get me wrong, those muscles are working, but like I said, it's more targeting the smaller muscles, the things that control your scap movement and your rotator cuff function. As long as you use it for that, what it's strong at, you'll get a lot of benefit from this piece of equipment. I really like the crossover Symmetry bands. I think they've done a really good job. It's a very portable tool. I use it a lot for warm-up, activation, even for shoulder strengthening. You can use it for that as well. But like I said, there might be other tools as you get more advanced that will help you to strengthen your shoulders and bigger muscles even further. But overall, this is something that I recommend everyone to get. It's definitely something very versatile and beneficial to have to keep your shoulders functioning well and take care of that shoulder health. I hope this video helped you. If you are going to get a crossover band Symmetry kit, I do recommend getting the Pro kit, even though it costs a little bit more, just because you'll have a wider range of resistances in the bands. You'll have all 5 bands, which you can use and kind of individualize the programming tailored specifically to you. They do sell the kits with just 2 bands and they have a higher resistance and a lower resistance, but sometimes I find that that's not always going to be the best thing for you, especially in areas that you might be weaker in or areas that you're stronger in. You might need different resistances. And the last thing that I want to say is prioritize form and technique. I think they do a really good job with some of their videos to explain this. Again, I like their exercises. I think it targets a lot of wide range of functional shoulder movements that we all need to practice. So again, it's a good tune-up, something that you should incorporate no matter what you're doing, especially for overhead athletes, especially for people that use their upper body and are needing to take care of their shoulders. It's a great tool. I hope you like this video. Subscribe, like, comment below. I would love to hear some of the feedback and stay tuned for more. More of these are coming soon. Aloha.